Ever been in a relationship where betrayal cuts so deep that you're left feeling absolutely nothing? Meet two individuals with stories that unravel the complexities of love, trust, and heartbreak. One man discovers his wife's infidelity through a forgotten laptop, leading to a shocking revelation. Another shares a roller coaster journey of a marriage turned upside down by cheating and the emotional toll it takes. Can you relate to the chilling numbness that follows, or will their tales of resilience and newfound love inspire a different perspective on the wreckage of a broken marriage? Let's begin with story one. My wife of 5 years cheated, and now I feel absolutely nothing for her. Nothing. And it scares me. Here are the main points. My wife is 34 and I'm 32. I met Wendy via friends 7 years ago. We dated for 2 years and have been married for 5. Years after I finished law school. For the first 2 years of our marriage, I worked as an associate of my firm, putting in 60 hours a week. That hard work has paid off, and I'm doing well professionally. Wendy was a teacher at a private school before we married, but she resigned to pursue her master's degree in education and is now enrolled in an educational doctorate program while working part-time. This was a bit of a financial burden since I wanted to pay off my college debts as soon as possible, but we made it work. When we first began dating, my wife was using an ancient laptop. It was in a box in a closet, which I discovered. She said that it had crashed and would no longer function. I plugged it in and attempted to turn it on. Nothing. Wendy took photographs of everything when we first met, especially selfies of herself with others. I ripped out the hard drive and went through, knowing she had some images of us from that period. It seemed to be okay. The issue has to be someplace else. I waited until she went to go see her sister before plugging it into a SATA cable connected to my PC, wanting to surprise her with images from when we first began dating. There were several photographs. Some pictures were of us on dates laughing and smiling. They brought back a lot of happy memories. However, there were additional photos of her with other individuals. I recall one individual in particular. Bob was his name, and Wendy had dated him before me. There were several photographs of her and Bob. I wanted to take just our photographs, so I figured the simplest approach would be to categorize them by date, assuming that the most recent images would be of justice. However, when I sorted them by date, several of her photos with Bob were mixed in with photos of us. I started going through the images one by one and discovered that in a number of her pictures with Bob, when they were hugging and kissing, she was wearing a necklace locket that I had bought her for her birthday the second year we were dating. I know because I had to borrow money from my brother to purchase it. When I looked at the dates on the images, I saw a pattern. On days and weekends, when school demanded my complete attention, when she went to her mother's home or her sister's place to offer me peace and quiet, she was meeting up with Bob behind my back. I was enraged. It seemed like fire ants were gnawing on my head, heart, and intestines. I was about to smash through the barriers when something broke and I felt numb. I started seeing and thinking in very cold, analytical ways, and transferred all of her photos to a flash drive. I packed a suitcase, got some suits, took the flash drive, and drove across town to stay with my brother. I left her laptop hard drive connected to my PC with a photo of her kissing Bob displayed on the monitor. The only other thing I left was a sticky note with an arrow pointing the necklace locket. Wendy called me from her mother's home, assuming that's where she was, but I didn't respond. It wasn't until a few hours later, when she likely returned to her apartment and saw the image on the display, that she bombarded my phone with voicemails and text messages. I totally disregarded them. I've previously discussed separation and divorce with another associate in the family law sector. We don't have any children or real estate, since most of our money was spent on repaying my student debts and paying for her schooling. My company has wrapped the wagons around me, so her calls are routed to voicemail. She is not permitted on the property, and security already turned her away. Wendy found me at my brother's home, but he told her over the phone that if she came over, he'd put his Dobermans on her. He said she was yelling, weeping, and pleading over the phone. It did not make me sad or pleased in any way. I didn't feel anything. My marriage has ended. That's something I've accepted, but it's been 2 days and I'm still not feeling anything. There is no discomfort. There is no rage. Nothing. How is it possible that I no longer have emotions for her? How is it that I don't want to see her again? That I've no desire to reconcile? Feeling nothing for her now that I'm alone with my thoughts frightens me. Is this something that will last? Is it possible that I'm still in shock? Is it permanent that I'm broken? On the plus side, I've never seen clearer answers in my instances. What do y'all think? Please give us your insights in the comments below. Now, let's move on to story number 2. My story of my cheating ex-wife. Greetings! I've been lurking for a long time, but decided to share my tale of how my ex-wife cheated on me. Be aware that this is nearly a book. I dated this girl for about 6 years, starting when we were both 18 years old. I advanced from a minimum wage pizza delivery job to a parts counter at a dealership where I earn well over $50,000 a year. I purchased my first home while we were still dating. I paid for our wedding out of my own cash and spent 2 years buying and flipping automobiles to make ends meet. She continued to ignore herself more and more each day. We married in November 2017 and everything went well, almost like a dream. However, it only lasted 2 weeks. That's when she began to change. Out of nowhere, she abruptly said that she fantasized about being able to screw about with other people while also desiring a threesome and so on. I did my best to accommodate the thoughts of her kinky imagination, but then her thoughts of betrayal caught up with her first when I personally caught her cheating on me. When I did, it was as if she was almost proud to tell me that the guy was from West Virginia, which made her get aroused, telling me that she could have done better. I lost it. I shouted and cursed at her, wondering how she could do this to me. This was barely a month into our marriage. So we went to counseling and therapy, and the therapist told me I needed to pay more attention to her, which is difficult when you're working 60 plus hours a week, since she doesn't want to work, after months of attempting to regain my faith in her. I persuaded her to take the vacation to Florida she'd been hounding me about for weeks. She insisted on traveling to her grandmother's house alone for a week. I had a lot of red flags at this time, but I shoved them down out of sight with the mindset of, I'm not going to be able to trust her again until I give her room to prove to me that I can. This would turn out to be a terrible error. Sorry, I'm trying to keep this as brief as possible so it doesn't turn into a book. Anyway, she returns from Florida and we plan our honeymoon to Hawaii. She's gotten so enamored with her phone since she returned from Florida that I'm becoming frightened all over again. She's always smiling and chuckling on her phone, and she carries it everywhere, puts it face down, and so on. We haven't been intimate for over 3 months, and at this point, April has arrived, and we go on our honeymoon, which consists mostly of her lying in our condo room for a week on her phone while I drive around Maui in a rental Mustang GT convertible. I had a great time, but there was nothing she did to make it feel like a honeymoon. Let's fast forward to May 2018. I'm lying in bed with her reading a book. When I moved, I see the purple devil emoji on her phone's chat screen. Something is definitely wrong, since you only use that emoji when you're up to something naughty. Once I lay back down, I attempt to brush it off by trusting her. But a few seconds later, I had the burning urge of wanting to find out what she was doing. So I asked, what was that talk about, honey? I try to take her phone and return to the other conversation she was having, but she shows me a new screen. But my whole body was melting out of my toes, because in those few seconds of switching to a new screen, I noticed she was video chatting and talking about some of the kinkiest shit I'd ever seen. It was with this dude who she spoke down to while telling him I was emotionally abusive and that she was ready to leave me. She also said that she missed the time she spent with him in Florida. I was shattered, heartbroken, and ruined. All she did was shake her head, turn over, and fell asleep. She woke the following morning and went out with pals for a bit. I was in the worst mental state I could be in, and I couldn't handle it any longer. I shouldn't have been there by myself. I began emailing my friends and closest family members that I loved and trusted, telling them how much they meant to me and how much I cherished their love and companionship. One of my closest friends luckily understood the warning signals and contacted me repeatedly until I responded. He told me not to do anything dumb, and that he was on his way to my place, and that I'd better be okay when he got there. That day, my buddy saved my life. By seeing the indications and understanding why I was saying goodbye, he left his $80,000 a year job in Atlanta during rush hour traffic to travel an hour to my place to make sure I was okay. I honestly couldn't have asked for a greater buddy. I gave him all my firearms that day and told him to keep them until I was no longer a danger to myself. Fast forward to June 2018, and I'm back in counseling and therapy with my ex-wife, and nothing seems to be improving my feelings about the issue. Every day I go to work, return home, clean, and go to bed. After speaking with many trustworthy family members and expressing my emotions to them, I realized I had only one choice. I had no other choice except to divorce her. I spoke with a couple of attorneys, took their advice, and devised my strategy in July 2018. I informed my wife that we needed to speak about something when I came home, which she didn't seem to mind. I had led her to believe that I had forgiven her. At this time, when I arrived home, I asked her to come down to the basement before she began cooking supper. I told her, this isn't working and your adultery is something I can't cope with. I've filed for divorce and nothing can alter my mind. You are welcome to remain at the home until you find another place to live, but the house was mine before our marriage and I want to retain it. That night turned out to be a nightmare and she had to live with a friend over the following several months. I received messages from individuals I knew with screen images of her Tinder, Bumble, and FetLife profiles and how many people she had and so on. But she'd email me and urge me to take her back, saying she'd be the finest wife ever and she'd beg, plead, and weep. She broke into my residence and attempted to end herself by swallowing 5 ibuprofen 200 milligrams. Anyway, we split a year and a day after we married, and like out of the kindness of my heart, I offered her a very lovely settlement deal. She ended up with me paying her insurance for my own car that I loaned her, which she has since ruined. I also paid her phone bill and offered her 90 days after the divorce to have the automobile financed and out of my name. She tried and failed to pay off her credit cards. She also informed our mutual acquaintances that she was planning to wreck my vehicle before I returned it. And since she realized she couldn't retain it, I gave her a free paid off automobile that had been well maintained in exchange for the new car, which I needed to sell. She denied my offer and I ended up repossessing the automobile from Tampa, Florida in January 2019. Multiple attorneys and months later, I paid her just short of $4,000 for her pains in order to remove her out of my life totally. I left out a few things, but I'm already at 2 pages and highly doubt anybody has read this far into the account of my marital disaster. On a brighter side, I've met the most lovely lady in the world who means everything to me. She's witty, gorgeous, intellectual, enjoys and notices the small things in life, and in a relationship, I wouldn't give her up for anything in the world. I suppose some good might emerge from all the nonsense in life. I still can't believe she put up with all of the ex-wife trauma for the most of it, and she's a trooper for it. Well, that's all, folks. Let us know what you think about this story in the comments below. We look forward to having you back for more cheating wife stories like this.